And go ahead and begin. Thank you all once again for coming today. It's a good way to start off the semester with important tips and insights from people who specialize in this. So thank you all again. We have Dr. Washburn, Arlene Washburn, and many of you probably know her. Both her PhD and her master's are in occupational adult education with an emphasis in human resources and technology. Her bachelor's is in business education, and she has a number of publications, including conducting panel discussions at University Service Learning for promoting the arts on campus. She has a UAFS Research Symposium presentation, among quite a few others. We have Professor Scott Reed. He has an MLA in English with an emphasis in writing. His thesis was Bigfoot's Last Dance, which I mean, sounds fascinating. Yeah. In English literature, publications include A Magical Tale of Persuasion, Teaching Argument in Freshman Composition. And again, I would think I'd like to be a student. Composition assignment support. He's a chief editor and contributing author for a supplement that was published as part of the Everyday Writer. And then Dr. Dana Gray. Dr. Dana Gray has her PhD in occupational education with a master's in telecommunications management. She has pages and pages of publications. I picked a couple. Technology use among college students in a regional university. Very helpful. Perceived influence factors in the college choice process, and uses and perceptions of online learning components in hybrid courses by full-time business instructors. So these are, we have experts in the field here today that what we're going to do is give them up to now about 15 minutes a piece, but we want to have within that period have a little time for Q&A. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over first to Dr. Washburn and take it from there. And you should have control of this screen, Dr. Washburn.
Thank you, Dr. Milliken. It's great to be back among friends today, even if only in Zoom. I'm thrilled to see you here. Thank you for coming. And it sounds like I am among giants and really would defer to you for your expertise here. Scott, your title is amazing. It makes students want to learn right away, I'm sure, because I certainly do. So I'm coming to you today not to talk about the technology of Zoom, but to give you applications and special use of Zoom to, number one, utilize more time, give you back more of your time in the classroom, and number two, to engage students in such a way that they will look forward to Zoom and be much more accepting of it than what we were last March. Last March, it was a survival mode. We got in quickly. It was amazing, absolutely amazing that we were able to adapt our university so quickly to accommodate what needed to be done. And in the defense of all of that, I think we learned a lot of best practices. And it's those best practices that I would like to see not only our university, not only our classrooms, but throughout the nation really capitalize on and be able to emphasize that for better economies, better efficiencies. But today I'm going to talk to you about Zoom, and I'm going to address the topics that I hear faculty complain about. Well, I don't know how to do this, or, well, I don't like this about it. And there's easy solutions to all of this. I also want to say that now that we all have our own connection, it's going to be so much better. A lot of the complications that we had before, because everybody was sharing the same connection for all the right reasons. We had to related to cost and many other things. But each time somebody used one of those connections, they would adapt it to their preference, or there would be changes based on their computer. And it presented a lot of changes and complications. Those issues, many of them, not all, but many of those issues are going to be completely remedied now by you having your own Zoom connection and your settings exactly where you want them, and should be able to use them consistently without any trouble. So let's get right in. I don't have a beautiful PowerPoint for you today. I will adapt this quickly, but I just have a list of things, and then we will share that with you later. So faculty's concerns that I'm hearing are, number one, how do I know if students are listening? Well, the way that you're going to know that is to, number one, require that they have a camera and have it on. And that doesn't need to be additional cost to the student. They can pull up the Zoom meeting on their phone and you will be able to see their face as well as they can see everything as also. I would encourage faculty to have the students download Zoom to their phone and do all of that prior to class, so it's done and ready. And even if they connected via their computer, then if they had complications due to low speed, so-called high-speed internet, they can quickly adapt to their phone and not lose time in the classroom. So number one, ask your students to have a camera. They must have a camera in the classroom. They must have it on so that you can see them at all time. Then the other issue is create some questions, which would be in polls. Have polls ready, maybe 3 sections, 2 or 3 questions per section, so that while you're lecturing, talking about the content, moving as quickly as you can, and pretty soon everybody gets glassy-eyed or you feel like they're just yawning, staring, a lot of squirming going on, pop one of the sections to them, asking questions about what you just lectured. Now, those questions will be, of course, created and prepared ahead of time. They'll be right there available to you on your screen, so that maybe you may only need them once during your class period, depending on how long your class is. Once, twice, or 3 times, but have them ready just in case. Because once you send those questions out to the students and they're answering those, when class is over, then you can go back and see, okay, are they really getting it? Or you can actually see it during class time. Are students really getting the concept that I just presented? Or do I need to cover it more in different manners? Or are they just sleeping on me? So do those polls randomly to capture and know what the students are comprehending. And students will also become aware that, okay, I better be listening to this. He knows what I know, or she knows what I don't know. So then the next question will be, I can't see my students. Are they still listening? Once again, the same solution. They can use their cell phone. Can I require students to use their cameras? Well, Dr. Beck just provided new policies related to Zoom. And yes, it is now faculty's choice as to whether you require the students to have cameras. That's randomly faculty's choice to choose. And then also check your icons before class starts. Many times I hear that my icons, the polls, the breakout rooms, the virtual backgrounds, chats, etc., is no longer available to you. Once again, those have been changed in the settings. If you can't see them, it's because they're not activated in the settings. Now, a lot of people refer to this as advanced settings. It's really just called settings. When you go into the Zoom website, zoom.us, and you go to the left-hand navigation bar where it shows your meetings, and then below that is settings. Click on that, it will take you into this long list of different settings. And by activating those, you make it available to you, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. So big difference there. If you're looking for polls, there's a long list of activations. So you may not want to scroll the whole time. You can do a Control F, type polls, and it'll take you right to it, or anything else you're searching for. It's a little bit of time saving there, but check your settings at the beginning of every single semester, certainly. And then before you get ready to start a class, look at your icons, make sure they're all there. And if they're not, you can quickly adjust. My students are not engaged. Well, no, you're going to have to really engage them. You can put them in a breakout room, give them a critical thinking assignment. You can divide the room into halves, give them a debate issue. You know, if you're teaching history right now, political science, look at the rich, fertile field for teaching such a subject, especially after yesterday's activities and current events. Give them a current event, something that the more trending to their generation, of course, the better, but that's hard to do when you've got 5 different generations in one classroom now. But do your best to pick a topic that they would like to talk about, that they may be adamant about, and that they are willing to go into a breakout room and really discuss with their colleagues. Now, you as a faculty can enter that breakout room very quickly, very easily, and exit it and go to the other rooms just as quickly. So it's visible to you. It's not like it's hidden away from your view. It's a tool that's very, very helpful and keeps your classroom engaged. Most students have poor internet connections. Yes, that's where the cell phone could help a little bit. So your cell phone may pick up on it better than what your computer would. So if they're lagging in their connection, just encourage them to go directly to their cell phone. So in terms of time management, you want to use your time wisely because it gets away so very, very quickly. Stack all of your documents on your desktop that you want to use for the class. If you're planning on a handout, go ahead and put that handout in the chat. So it's there and available for you, and you don't have to take time away from class. Just simply tell the students, refer to the document, tell the students to go to the chat room. It's there and waiting for them. It's uploaded to chat, and they will be able to access it. Including PowerPoints. And you'll want to do that before class starts. Have students to register their attendance. Never call roll in a Zoom room. Have them to register their attendance in the chat. And then before the class is over, you will save that chat and you'll have permanent record of who was there. Now, one thing I would encourage you to do is to break this up just a little bit. One day you may have the students to register in chat at the beginning of the class time. That way, anybody that came in late, they can still register, but after a while, it just encourages students to make sure they're on time. Or you may have students register in the chat in the middle of the classroom or the end. If you see that a lot of them could be sneaking out or leaving during the class period, then one day just decide, okay, they're going to register at the end. You don't register until I tell you to, and now we're going to register at the last part of the class. And that will tailor. But if a student leaves, they really should let you know first that they're going to leave. You should know about it because you have a lot of different things juxtaposing the whole time the class is going on to make sure everything's just right. So use the registration in the chat as a time-saving device. And again, make sure that all your icons are there that you're going to use for that class period. Create your polls ahead of time in advance. Then place a critical or creative thinking topic for the breakout rooms so that you've already got that done and ready and well prepared.
Arlene, you have about 3 minutes remaining.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Engaging students. I want to talk real quickly about engaging students. I would encourage you to have them, give them assignment from one class period when it ends. Say, okay, next class period, this is what I want you to do to get ready for class. And you will give them a silly assignment, completely non-academic. What's their favorite episode of Judge Judy? To show their fur babies, their pets when they're gathering, but before class starts. Utilize that time as a fun, engaging time so that the students will look forward to that social connection, seeing each other, being more engaged, the opportunity to laugh. We need to laugh as much as possible. Ask them to, 1 week you might say, share your most embarrassing moment when we come in next class period. Be able to talk about that while we gather. Show classmates their fun hats or their silly socks. Discuss a current event. Nothing serious, hopefully not political, but something that they will be willing to discuss, and encourage the students to take pictures if there's a snow. You know, take a picture of your snowman and show it to us when we gather next class period, or just something like that. Maybe what's your silliest bumper sticker that you've ever seen? What was a rule your mother created that you had to live by that was kind of never served a great purpose or was a silly issue? What did your dad require of you that seemed silly while you were growing up, and how well do you use it today? Okay, Dr. Milliken, what's my time?
You just nailed it. It's 11:15.
Well, I didn't get to show how to show a video, which is real easy, but I promise you more training to come. And we also have a lot of handouts that will help with that. Please know that a lot of the complications you've had in the past, as I said earlier, will be eliminated now that you have your own login. Thank you so much for coming. So great to see everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Washburn. And there's so much to pack into this one session that hopefully this will be like a teaser to make faculty want to know more. So, next we have Professor Scott Reed, who is going to talk about using embedded rubrics in our LMS.
Well, I was hoping Dr. Washburn would go long because I'm not sure how much there is to say about building a rubric, but I think that Dr. Emmons and I can both attest that grading essays without rubrics online could be an exercise in torture, and it would take a whole day to provide all the feedback that an individual essay would need. So I've been making a lot of use of the rubric, not only in my composition classes, but also in humanities, excuse me, and introduction to literature. I'm lead instructor for 4 online courses. And again, these are real time savers. I didn't want to go through all of the basics of how to build a rubric. I'm assuming that we can all build a basic rubric. Just wanted to talk about a couple of the things that I've learned through trial and error. So I have a brief visual here, and I'm going to take over the screen.
Okay. Just click on share screen.
There we go. And I'm assuming everybody's seeing a little presentation. Is that right?
Oops, I don't see it yet.
Okay. I should have listened better to.
Ta-da.
There we go. Okay. So one thing I've learned, sorry, trying to find my arrow, building a rubric is that it does not work with the online test format. Again, maybe Dr. Washburn could contradict me, but I don't see that it does. And to me, this is one of the shortcomings of the LMS, because when I'm giving an essay exam, I don't have a rubric that I can use to grade their essays. What I've been doing is I do a PDF version of a rubric, and I highlight the different criteria on that, and then I upload it to the student once I've graded the exam. The other 3 formats are eligible for using a rubric though. And I've just started using the rubric for discussion forums, and I think that's going to save me a little time in grading there. Again, I use them mostly for the essays. And just briefly, when you are starting an assignment, when you're adding an assignment, you go down to the grading section, go to the drop-down menu and select rubric, and you'll see a basic empty rubric that looks like this. Above it, you'll see that you can give your rubric a name, and I would encourage you to give it a very specific name, and I'll show you why in a couple minutes here. Of course, you can add or delete columns and rows to fit your needs. And also you can edit the language that's in the top column there. I forgot to encourage you guys to ask me questions at any point. I'm very self-conscious about the dryness of this subject, so please feel free to jump in. Of course, when you are building a rubric, again, notice that each column will come with a default value. I think the original one is 2 there. You can see in the last column, I changed it to 0, and this alters all of the values in that entire column. And the same goes for the rows when you're building your criteria. You'll see that the more specific you are in each section of your criteria, the less work you're going to have to do when providing feedback for your students. No questions so far? Okay.
I like the way you've done the anchors, Scott. So that's straight out of testing and measurements psychology.
Oh, well, thanks. It's pure luck. When building a rubric, I know personally that it can be very time consuming, but if you look at an example of the kind of feedback I'm giving on essays, you can see that I need all the help I can get in trying to communicate to the student where they can improve. One little secret that I found out after a couple of years working with rubrics in the LMS is that you can actually import rubrics to other assignments. And this is why I suggest that you have a very specific rubric title for your rubric. If you look at my far column here where I've tried to pull up every assignment in my file cabinet, you can see I have lots of duplications and it would be very difficult for me to find the exact rubric that I want. So this is why I suggest that you label your rubric by class, by unit, as much detail as you can so that you can find what you need when you need it. And then you can import it into an existing assignment. And then from there, of course, you can go ahead and edit your rubric again to fit the needs of the new assignment. Last but not least, you can still add additional information in your rubric when you're posting your scores. So for example, here I have a student who was dinged for not having proper documentation. So I give a page number of referral. That's all I really have to say about rubrics per se. If there are any questions about them or anything relevant to the LMS, I'm happy to try to answer them.
I just have a
I had
comment.
a couple of comments.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, after you've used the rubric, and that is best practices, and that is what Quality Matters embraces, because it helps the learners understand what the expectations are before they begin the assignment. But you can also override the total up or down.
Yes.
And that's very helpful. I learned that the hard way. So
That's
excellent
true.
information.
You can do that, and I've often done that for students who, well, for example, at the beginning of the semester, I give group assignments in Composition 2, and this is, the first week of the semester. I'm expecting errors in things as basic as format, much less documentation and grammar and structure. So I mark up the rubric the way I would actually grade it, and then I just go ahead and give them full credit for participating in that first assignment by overriding the score. Yeah, you're right.
I tend to just round up for whole numbers, because sometimes you'll get like 23.4.
Right.
So
Right. So yeah, what she's talking about is each column will compute a value based on the criteria you put in the top row and in the top columns and in the row. So if you put a 47 in one row, then you're gonna get decimal points behind the whole numbers of a column. Does that make sense? I'm happy to pull up another screening if necessary.
I have a question. Once you create the rubric, it's supposed to follow you in the Moxie Manager I'm not sure if it's based on course or your name. I think it's you specifically as a faculty member, but I've never been successful. And I think once it's created per course, it stays there. Can you define that, Dr. Reed, as to if it's in the Moxie Manager, we should be able to retrieve it based on the course or name?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I appreciate the compliment. You can find, for example, if I pull up if I try to start an assignment and import a rubric, I can find a rubric from any of my courses. Okay. So whether it's a humanities course, an introduction to literature course, or a composition course, all the rubrics that I have saved to the file cabinet will be there. Okay. That answers my question. I knew you were supposed to, but I've not been real successful at that. One other thing I might say that I use rubrics a lot for discussions, and they make the grading so much faster and easier, but also when you require
students to reply to 2 colleagues, then it's all right there where you can grade it so succinctly and quickly. But also, Dr. Milliken, you might want to mute your sound right now, because I also create canned answers, that a long list of canned answers that will vary slightly based on what the students, how they performed and how they did. But I can copy and paste those answers right into their comments, my grading comments. And that helps to save a lot of time too. Now, it is specific to their work and to the quality of their work, but it just saves a whole lot of time to have it pre-prepared.
I do the same thing. I have a bunch of sticky notes on my desktop for each of my assignments in each of my classes. So in addition to the rubric, I'm giving specific feedback on their work. In the 2 combined, I'm hoping that I've answered all their questions. I know Dr. Gray was talking about, you know, according to Quality Matters, it's good the students can see the rubrics ahead of time so they know what's expected of them. I've found that the trick is getting them to look at it.
I also copy answers, but I mean, sometimes it's specific, like when I'm grading for APA style, I give them a page number, I give them a section, and then a specific quote. So, I mean, it's not going to change. And for me, it helps me lessen the burden on my right arm, which can get fatigued more often. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't get that specific in the rubrics, but again, I have dozens and dozens of sticky notes where I have the page numbers and examples, just like you're talking about, Dr. Wooler. And it cuts down the grading from 30 minutes per essay to maybe 10 or 15 minutes per essay. But it's, you know, if you're trying to give the kind of feedback that will help them improve on their next essay, it's just very time consuming. And this is why the rubrics are so important to me. Yesterday, when I was looking to see what CTL had to say about rubrics, seeing if I had missed anything, I do see that there is a function that I'm going to start trying to figure out where you can push, I think it was called, maybe Dr. Washburn can help me, you can push material to other faculty. You know, this is a problem that Dr. Emmons and I were having in the past, trying to share assignments among the faculty in the English department. So I'm going to try to figure that out too, if I can.
Okay, I've seen that done if it's in a test. You can push the test question or the full test to your file cabinet, and then you go down to the bottom left-hand corner of your navigation bar in the course to your file cabinet, and it's there. And then from there, you share it with anybody else you want to.
Oh, okay.
That's lovely to know. I wish we had help with that a few weeks ago, because we were asking CTL for help to get a post-assessment test delivered to all of the sections once we went remote, and we were unsuccessful at doing that, which means that our assessment for Comp 1 and Comp 2 is now going to be incomplete. So we need to talk to you, Earlene, about how to do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
I have a quick request for Earlene and Scott. It had never even occurred to me to use a rubric for discussion forums. I find that really interesting. Would you guys mind sharing maybe with us or with me an example of a rubric for one of your discussions, so I can look about how to set that up and the kind of information to put on it? I think
Yes.
that's a
In fact, I just created one yesterday when I was trying to prepare for today. And this is the first time I had used a rubric for discussion. And like I said, I've just been cutting and pasting my stock comments into their grade book. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine just clicking a few buttons with those comments already? So if I can master the pushing the materials to you, I'll send it to you.
That's great. Thank you.
The rubrics for discussions I've been using for probably 5 years, and I love them. They just make it so much easier.
Yeah.
Well,
And
too
I'm a
bad
big
we haven't figured this out before to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of social constructivist learning, where everybody learns from the voice of their peers and engagement with each other, which is an engaging activity for students. But they are just absolutely wonderful for grading. You can move so quickly through all of that, and it really helps. How about if I meet with the two of you on a personal basis, pull up a course, we'll walk through it and take our time. I'll show you how, because I have a lot of different rubrics based on what the assignment is.
I know
And
that,
everyone pops up and is available to me when it's ready to implement an existing rubric.
I know
I
that
can
Dr.
also
Ray-
add, sorry,
Okay.
if I can also add, we've got some example courses in Quality Matters have already been approved with Quality Matters that have embedded rubrics in everything, including discussions. You can look at those on the LMS right now.
Well, that's really a perfect segue then, because the 16 minutes is up and we're ready for Dr. Gray, who actually is going to be talking about training resources that are embedded in the ELTR 700 course. So Dr. Gray.
I would like to defer just for 1 minute to Mr. Reed to finish talking about that. Sorry, then I'll begin. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that it would be nice if we could have, say, a shell in the LMS that all faculty could, or at least by department, where faculty could contribute assignments and lecture materials that we could all share with one another. I think that's one of the things that I just, looking back to Angel in the past, that was something, it was much easier for us to share stuff back and forth. I would like to have some kind of
Scott,
System
we
like
did build a term where we could put all the Quality Matters courses in it that have been certified, so faculty could search and look at the best practices. And Dr. Gray, I thought we call that model examples. I see a term here that's model example, but you know what? It doesn't pop up anything. So we'll work on that.
We have a term called Quality Matters, and we put the courses in there when they're going up for internal review and then Quality Matters review. And once they're certified, they remain in that term. And I don't know what the settings are for that, if everyone can see them, but hopefully they can.
They should be able to see Quality Matters term, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 courses in it.
Okay, I'd like
A
to
lot
see,
more than that.
I'd like to see a system where I could, steal from Sally and she could steal from me and stuff like that too. Not just the Quality Matters ready stuff, which I'm happy to review and borrow from as a forum. I'd like to see one for each department or something like that as well.
Just a quick comment. Another university I'm teaching with is doing just what you're saying, Professor Reed. We have and it's just for this one course that 3 of us teach. So it could even be expanded to, like you said, if it's your department. It's awesome. Very easy to go pull an assignment and bring it into your own course.
You're right, Dr. Gray. I had a search element in there that prevented it from seeing you all. So
But some of those are in internal review. They're not Quality Matters yet, but they're well designed and on their way. So with that, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you guys what we're talking about, and then segue into my section. So on the LMS, under academics, we're talking about, sorry, I have a lot of courses on here. It's this term, Quality Matters. And for example, you can go into the Strategic Global Marketing course. Sorry, I'm getting a little winded here. And I'm going to go to coursework and sorry, let me go to one that is a forum discussion. I guess I should have looked at this from the student perspective. Hang on just 1 second. Okay, sorry. Let me just do it.
edit
Let me
a
just do it this
form
way.
from the Faculty view.
Oh my goodness. What am I doing wrong, Arlene?
Just go into a forum and edit it from a faculty view. Because
Edit.
you'll be able to see the
Edit
rubric
then.
from here.
Sorry.
That's okay, you're fine.
So there's an example of one. And what Scott said, it's very specific discussion rubric module 3. And when you create this, you can go in here and then, you can import an existing one from your file cabinet. And that way you don't have to create every one from scratch. Anyway, there's lots of examples in there is my point.
But make sure that the rubric is very specific to the assignment, because if you leave out anything, the students will catch it and work it.
Right.
I didn't know that there was a rubric available for discussion. That will save me so much time.
Yes.
I can tell you, I've had several quality matters or courses go through quality matters, and the reviewers are very diverse and subjective. And I remember one telling me I could only have 4 criteria, which was ridiculous. Or 4 columns. Anyway, don't get too bogged down into that.
So does everyone have access to the Quality Matters term that I'm seeing here?
I hope so, at least as a student, not to change anything, but as a
Right.
student. Can you confirm that, Arlene?
Can I what?
Can you confirm that all faculty have access to the Quality Matters courses as students?
From what I'm seeing, no, they don't, but we can just make a request to CTL and we can add you into it.
Okay.
I know
This
early
one-
on we talked about doing that, but I don't see that listed, because while the faculty is building their course in this, it's visible to everybody. So we really need to do it on an individual request basis.
Okay, so as far as my portion of today's presentation, if you go to on the LMS, if you go to academics, under the very first term that's listed as training, we've created, and it's not a course, it's a training resource, but we've created a course called ELTR 700, Course Design with QM. And let me just say from the very beginning, this is very much a work in progress, and it's in the beginning stages. So what we did was, the idea was, Quality Matters has 8 categories or 8 criterion, and then each criteria, 8 criteria. Each criterion then has, 4 to 10 standards. And we thought, how can we include or provide some examples and some instruction for each of those standards or those criteria, and how it fits with our Ginzabar LMS. So this is kind of a hybrid between some QM training and how to do it in the Ginzabar LMS. So we're trying to merge the two. So what we did was we created a module for each of the criterion. The first one deals with course overview and introduction. I'm going to change screens here just for a second. If you go to Quality Matters, the first criterion, all of this deals with course overview and introduction, and there are 9 different standards. And some of the things that we can do in the LMS can meet more than one standard. So it's not really a one-to-one correlation, but we're trying to bridge between Quality Matters and the Ginzabar LMS. So the first module deals with those those standards that are in criterion 1, dealing with course overview and introduction. And all we're really doing is just creating how-to videos. Okay, so For example, here's one, 8 modules or images with alt text, how to add alt text for accessibility. And module 8 deals with accessibility, but we put it in module 1 for now. Module 2 deals with the learning objectives. And here's a video about basic overview of alignment, which is the crux of Quality Matters. And we try to make these really short videos, we'll see. Assessments is the 3rd criterion. And again, we're just beginning to make some of these videos, but here's a video about that addresses standard 3.2 syllabus grading and policies. Module 4 deals with criterion 4, which is instructional materials. Module 5, learning activities. Module 6, course technology. Module 7, learner support. And Module 8, accessibility. And I would just like to say at the beginning, I am not an expert by any means in the Ginzabar LMS. I'm not an expert in Quality Matters, and Quality Matters deals with instructional course design. So the crux of this, or the idea of this training resource, is to merge instructional course design that meets Quality Matters standards with the Ginzabar LMS specific how-tos. And again, we've got lots of work to do. You can see much of it. This is just the beginning stages. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how to make this idea work, but I think it will. I think it will. So that's basically the resource. And if you want to ask any questions or ask for specific videos, we can definitely create them. I've got a lot on my plate right now, including the marketing plan for the university. So this may take some time to get done, but I'm trying to plug away at it. And again, anybody else who wants to work on this, you're welcome to join me.
So
Dr. Gray,
It's a concept, yes.
I don't have access to that, or is it not pushed out yet?
right.
It should be available. I talked to Dr. Dotterer yesterday, and he said it should be available to all faculty now.
ELTR 100 and ELTR 400 are all I see.
Me too. 100 and 400. I'm adjunct. Are you adjunct, Reed? No.
That didn't matter. We're all faculty.
Might be a different list on the import of access. I'll ask Dr. Dotterer again, but he emailed me yesterday late saying that he was able to import the RSU faculty or whatever the term is.
Yeah, I'd be interested in
that.
the alignment material you have.
Okay, I'll ask him again, but that's where it is. And that's kind of the concept. And so we'll be making, here's a little video that very short, it's only like 2 minutes, that basically introduces what the concept of this training resource is. And I noted that it's included as an example of what you might include in your course to meet standard 1.2, which is providing an overview for the course. One of the challenges here is that all of this information, Quality Matters, is copyrighted, and I can't just say, here's what the standard is, and read it or do a screenshot. I can only kind of refer to it. So I can refer to the standard numbers, but I can't go into a lot of detail about what is available here on the Quality Matters CRMS portal. So that's a little bit of a challenge. It would be nice if we could be a lot more specific, but anyway, that's the concept. Very much a concept at this point and a work in progress.
Really helpful resource.
Well, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I think so.
May I ask, it looks like are you having little quizzes or things tied to these?
No quizzes. It's not a course. It's just really a list of examples and videos.
Okay.
I mean, it's set up as a course because it's on the LMS, but it's not a course. So theoretically, if you're working on your course to meet Quality Matters, you might just go in and say, okay, here's one on introductions. Okay, I think I did do that one. It's for real, so you can interact. Here's one, create an introduction forum, standard 1.9. And if you click on it, well, of course, I need to look at it from the student perspective, right?
It looks like you've done a lot of work. I wonder if
Just starting,
if you
really.
tied a short quiz or something to them, we might be able to rank up some professional development points.
That would be nice.
I didn't think about that, but
After she
Just more
finishes
work for
putting
you.
the MBA online.
okay. In my spare time, I'll add that. Now that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Let me see if we can, I'm still trying to get my head around the idea of merging the Quality Matters 45 standards in a criterion with specific to the Genzabar LMS. But yes. Anyway.
Dana, there's some additional resources online that you might be able to incorporate with what you're doing there and save you some time. It's in the ELTR 400. And it was designed for professional development, but there's a lot of resources there that you might be able to use to assist you without having to recreate everything.
Maybe I can import some of those videos. The problem that I found with this course, or not course, but it's not linked to the Quality Matters standards. It's just basically a how-to in Genzabar. But I could definitely take some of these videos and link them or categorize them by the criteria. I think that's a good idea. Especially the accessibility, because I'm very weak on that. I think I've got it, but I don't know. Maybe we can talk about that this summer, Earlene.
Yes, I would love to.
So all of this work, you're on the LMS task force, is that right?
I'm not very active on that. I'm trying to, but yes, this was just.
My question would be, if you put in all this work to make it compatible with Genzabar, QM and Genzabar, what's the likelihood of us going to another LMS?
Oh,
Yeah, I know. I started this before that notion came up. To be honest with everyone, I think there would be a lot of hurdles to overcome to move to a different LMS. Because our LMS is also linked to the enterprise resource, the ERP software, and some other elements. And it would include a lot of training and course development for everyone. And it's a lot of hurdles. So I think the focus is more on how can we ensure the Genzabar works and meets our needs. And for example, there's an upgrade that's coming soon. And the task force has basically stalled that until we test the upgrade on a test server that is fully functional and can ensure that there aren't any problems. So I think that might be the better, that's my personal thoughts. I think that might be the better approach than looking at a new LMS. Plus, I have some experience with other LMSs, both from grad school, which was some time ago, but also in being a QM course reviewer. And I'm not impressed with some of them. Some of the leading ones, I think universities like, well, some of the universities have chosen a couple of popular ones, and I think it's for cost purposes, not for quality purposes. My own personal biases. I think Genzabar is really an excellent LMS. The problem or the challenge that we face with it is twofold. One is training. We don't know how to use all of the elements in it, like we've talked about with the introductions and discussions, or excuse me, the rubrics and the that kind of thing. And then the other one is the upgrades and ensuring that they're stable before they're implemented. So just my 2 cents.
You know, the thing about our LMS is anytime you have an LMS that does a lot of different things, almost anything that a faculty can ask for, it's complicated enough that it takes a lot of training. And I understand from a faculty's point of view that to learn all the things that needs to be learned to use it as effectively as it's built for and intended for takes a lot of time. But we've put a lot of time into it. And to turn around now after 4 years later and use a new system, you're going to go through that painful ordeal all over again. And the cost that it would cost the university would just be horrendous.
Not that I have anything to say in it, but yeah, Angel to this was a big jump. So I don't want to take another jump.
No, I personally don't either. I was just curious of what people were talking about when they're in the meetings.
I think my personal opinion is I think the focus is more on ensuring Zanzibar upgrades don't sabotage our current efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
if we can ensure that, then I think we're good to go.
And we're coming to realize that if we were to convert to a new LMS, we'd have to rebuild all of our classes from scratch.
Yeah. Right.
We've already started a tremendous effort with Quality Matters so far. I don't want to redo that.
That's right. And they would all have to be re-reviewed, and the expense that we've spent with Quality Matters.
So
Well, we do
ensuring that the Zanzibar upgrades work is vital before they're implemented. And that's a significant step that we've just taken in the last couple of months. I mean, before that, ACS, would implement the upgrades with Zanzibar, and it just happened, and faculty were left with the consequences. And nothing against anybody of that, but the testing is really critically important before it's implemented for real. So,
I had a question.
sure.
I didn't know that you could actually use a rubric with discussions, and I do have an assignment where I'm going to use Turnitin. Can you incorporate a rubric with an assignment that you use Turnitin with?
Let me just kind of briefly answer that, then I'm going to defer to Erlene. If I use Turnitin, the student submits a paper or whatever to turn it in, and they get a similarity rating. And my thoughts are that you can require the student to have a similarity or plagiarism rating of, say, 25% or less, or whatever percentage you decide. And then you can put that as an element in the rubric that the Turnitin. You make that a condition of the rubric. What do you think, Erlene?
You can create your own rubric when you use. I'm not a Turnitin expert, let me say that, but you can create your own Zanzibar rubric if you so choose to. But when you go in to turn it in and you're editing their papers, they have somewhat of a rubric there. You, as you grade through it, you can click and select certain things and then edit and make comments. So I don't know that it would be beneficial to you for the way that it already works.
Okay, thank you.
Can I speak to the?
Go ahead.
I was just going to speak to the way that I've used Turnitin. I have a lot of those comments made, and you can save them. And then all you got to do is go click on that button. So if you know that something needs to be in the center, and you can make that comment, and then I will pull that down as a grade mark paper and send that to the student. So it shows every comment and where it should be, and it's all there for the student. So it's not really but then I have a rubric in my assignment that I go back to as I'm grading their paper, and I grade the rubric and it's done.
Okay, thank you.
And that other rubric created from Zanzibar would be one that if you had additional requirements not addressed by Turnitin.
I'm thinking it's a two-step process. The Turnitin allows you to provide feedback very specific feedback. And then the rubric in the assignment is how you determine the points. I think.
Can be. You can leave comments in both places, but yeah, you're right.
Because the Turnitin feedback is not linked to the Genzabar LMS gradebook. So if you use the Turnitin for feedback, very specific feedback and guidance and that kind of thing, and then you just grade it in the rubric in the LMS, then that's what goes to the gradebook.
But I upload that file within the LMS with the rubric, so they can see the rubric and then they can pull down the file.
Good practice. Awesome.
Well, we have gone significantly over. I would recommend that we continue the conversation, and you could email anyone on any one of these experts in this room, and we have a lot of experts in the room also who did not present. So the conversation can be very helpful. This is being recorded, so we will it will be available unless someone on here has an issue with that. I didn't ask that, but we'll make that available, and we want to know what else people would like to hear about for the future opportunities. Thank you all for taking time. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you.
I would like to see a way we could have our testing center kind of take over the responsibilities that we have ProctorU doing right now.
Can you be a little more specific? I'm not sure I follow.
Well, of course, with COVID and everything going on, I've just stopped requiring students in many of my classes to have their tests proctored, because I don't want to have them charged to have ProctorU, to use the ProctorU services. I thought it would be nice if our own testing center could provide those kind of proctor services remotely.
So we have one person, and then there are part-time person that have several jobs that they do, but we have one person for the testing center. If they were to do it remotely, that's something we can at least talk about. If they were to, of course, that we only have, when we're not under COVID physical distancing restrictions, we only have enough room. We have 20 computers. So with COVID, that's only about 7. So I'm here talking about just the proctor portion of it. So I want to have that conversation with Dr. Hoskinson and see where we can go with that.
I just wanted to stir the pot before we sign off.
Does the university have Respondus Lockdown browser? No? Okay.
So
We're not.
have you used it, Angie?
I'm going to this semester with the other university. So no, I have not actually used it. I've helped with some training at another facility, but I've not personally used it. So I was hoping that could be his answer to his issue.
Okay.
It
I'll
actually
just-
showed up
I
and on-
It was supposedly available in Genzabar. I've seen it in the settings, but I don't know if it actually functions.
Yeah.
That's just what I was getting ready to say. Good point, Dr. Emmons. It was originally part of Genzabar, but it created more problems, and we put out notices after notices to faculty, do not use it. And I think since then, in some of the updates, they've actually taken it out.
I had problems with it in the beginning because I allow my students to use their online computer. If they can't answer the questions that having access to the rest of the internet doesn't help them answer my questions in quantitative methods. So I give fresh questions that I make up. So that what happened would they might go out to use an online book, and I make an open textbook, because if they can't do it before the exam, having a textbook is not going to help them. So they go to do their e-textbook and they got locked out, and so that was problematic. So there were a number of reasons why we stopped using that. That doesn't mean that that's not good for others. So we'll have that conversation. Well, okay, we are now at noon, and I'm sure that you would like to eat before you do other things like the afternoon sessions or perhaps one of your other jobs. So thank you all so very much for coming today and for presenting for this very valuable discussion. I'm going to go and change my class by tonight and add in rubric for my forum discussions. So
Thank you.
again, yes,
Good job.
Everyone, as always, very helpful. Thank you.
well, happy spring 2021 all.
Nice to say 2021, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye all.